Welcome back to Exquisitely Aligned, where the answers are on the inside. I am your host, Gina Meyer Vincent, and I am so excited to introduce you to someone I adore from a business standpoint, from her brain, her ability to pull words out of nowhere within seconds, and how she helps me get this message out to you. Today, I want to introduce you to Mary Lou Davidson. She started her career in PR and moved to broadcast, produced Animal Planet Radio, HDTV Design Minutes, and Travel Channel Radio. Then started the podcast station Web Talk Radio, .com, which is how I'm coming to you today. A displaced New Yorker, kind of like me, with Chicago roots, now living in Sarasota with her furry family. Welcome, Mary Lou. I'm delighted to have you here with me today.
Thank you so much, Gina. It's an honor.
Mary Lou, I know we could talk for hours, but I won't keep you here. I know you're busy. But one of the things we had just briefly touched on that I thought would be fun to talk about today is how things shifted, and it happens to many of us at different times in our lives. But in 2008, I know there was a shift going on, felt by everyone here in the United States. And I know there's a little story for you there that has become a huge passion. And with Exquisitely Aligned, we're all about finding our way in this world by using our gifts and bringing our desires to its fullest potential. So if you can share with us what shifted for you back in 2008.
So if everyone remembers, the landscape was rocky. The market was shaky. Housing was in a crunch, and there was a real feeling of uncertainty. And I had that too in my career about, what's next. And I think that's about the time that everyone started looking for a side hustle.
Yeah.
And rather than necessarily driving for Uber, I wasn't talking about trying to make extra money necessarily, but creating something that I loved that could potentially be monetized down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And I had also moved to Sarasota and had been working from home for 5 years and hadn't met a soul. So that was another ulterior motive, is to develop some kind of a social network. So I learned about Meetup, and I formed the Sarasota Dog Meetup. And I created a website because I realized, being relatively new in town, there was no online matrix of information for folks who needed to find a groomer and a trainer and everything you need to go along with being a pet parent. So I launched sarasotadog.com. I launched the Meetup. Our first get together was at a restaurant, and it was focused on petiquette, what you should and shouldn't do with your dog when you're dining out. And we had 30 people there.
Oh, and I love it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So that was, 15 years ago. We now have 5,000 members. And of those 5,000 people, I have 10-ish really good friends. I was able to monetize the site with advertisers, trying to reach that very targeted niche audience.
Yeah.
And learn a lot about dogs and the human canine bond.
Yeah, I love it. And as a newer dog lover, now having them living in my house after finding a pregnant dog on my back steps while animal control was out on the front at the neighbor's house, little did I know she was pregnant. Little did I know her owner didn't want her back, but they really do change our lives, don't they? I fell in love the minute I looked into those brown eyes, nose to nose, which I normally wouldn't do with a strange German Shepherd. But, it's incredible. That bond that forms is amazing. And I know you're a connector. I know from experience, and I love connecting people with other people and obviously pets. But let's talk about that bond, because it's something that I think can be life-changing. And in a healthy way. I met a woman years ago. I was looking to get another rabbit at the time. I had lost a lop-eared rabbit, and I went to I don't know what it was. I was in North Carolina in the middle of nowhere at some kind of farm show that the guy I was dating at the time said, "Oh, you can get a rabbit here." So we drove out to the middle of nowhere, and I was very much out of my element with my red lipstick. I did not have overalls on. It was very fascinating. And I found a rabbit that I thought was just adorable that I wanted. And the woman told me, unfortunately, its mother was grooming it too much and chewed off its tail. So this rabbit would no longer be a show bunny. And I had to break it to her. I wasn't going to show the rabbit at any kind of fair. I just wanted it to enjoy, because I was single and had a little apartment. I really didn't have the time for a dog. But she shared with me at that moment that she started with animals because her doctor recommended. She was extremely anxious and depressed, working a huge, big figure career job for many years, and she just couldn't relax, and he told her to get a pet, and then this became this huge, where now she travels around a few different states showing her pets and selling them and so forth. So it was very fascinating to me at that young age to hear how these animals really do heal us. So if you can give a voice to that, as you have so many members now, I can't imagine how many stories you might have.
Yeah. So my first dog I didn't get until I was 35. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't know anything about pets. And we lived in New York City, and he was a Shetland sheepdog and extremely smart. So we were on the Upper West Side. One of his favorite things to do was to kind of herd the little ladies that were on the way to the laundromat, not quite biting their ankles, but getting right up in there. And in terms of the bond, because he was a smarter breed, and all dogs are great, don't get me wrong. We had a lot of eye contact, and, I was single. I was in New York City, and he was my partner, and he could walk. I would never do this now, but being an idiot, not first dog, we walked off leash in Central Park. So,
wow.
Lots of great stories about that dog Scout. But also he opened so many doors for me, they say the end of your leash is really a social lubricant, and so many people.
I like that. Hold on. Say that again. This is what I'm talking about.
No, it's just that dogs make everything easier, right? And people will approach you, and you feel comfortable approaching them, and especially if you have a really well-balanced, friendly pup.
Yes.
So there was that was an eye-opening experience, and I was able to take him to work with me at that time. It was 95. Wow. So, people from other floors. I worked at One Bridge Plaza, which is right up GWB in Fort Lee. Yes. And people from other floors would stop by and say, "Does Scout need a walk? Can I pet Scout?" I had a boss who was kind of strict and I don't want to say severe, but she was all business. Yeah. She loved Scout. One day, Scout came in and chewed the wires to our local area network, which is a very expensive proposition to repair at that point. She covered it, no questions. It just got taken care of. So I think when you have a really amazing bond and also an amazing pet, people want to be a part of that.
Yeah. And it's amazing how, I loved, a couple things with the German Shepherd. So Kiki was her name, and I was in my 40s, I guess. So 42, I think, when I found her. So that was my first experience as a dog owner. Now, I will tell you, as a child, I asked for a dog many times, never got it. I got always a cat. And so I had cats all my lives. But at any rate, it was fascinating to me because with the eye contact, you're exactly right. I sat across from that dog while animal control was out front and sat on the ground nose to nose, looked into her eyes, and I could hear her say, now my husband says, okay, you're nuts, but I heard her say, I need a safe place to live. And I was like, okay, no problem. Hold on. Let me ask my husband, right?
Yeah.
And I called him out of the house. Hey, I found a dog. He said, let him go. Tell him to go home, And I said, the dog told me it needs a safe place to live. My husband's like, what? You're crazy. What I didn't hear the dog say, because I was already agreeing, sure, no problem. You can live with me. I have 2 cats. Hopefully you get along and don't eat them. But that dog was pregnant. So I ended up with 2 dogs in a very I ended up with 7 dogs in a very short period of time. And I found the owner, and the owner didn't want the dog back. And obviously didn't tell me she was pregnant. But at any rate, that's not for here or there. But that having a German Shepherd, I realized very quickly a lot of people put their arms up. I think they think they're at the airport and they're going to be sniffed or something,
Right.
And I realized the dogs whose ears are down, they just have this different look, this appearance. And I think we, beyond animals, it goes into people. We may shy away from somebody who looks different than we do. That makes us feel fearful that we're going to put up our hands. And so it was very fascinating. Oftentimes kids didn't care, but I found the adults did. And they might change the side of the, here I'm in Charlotte, not Manhattan, but at this point
Right.
I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. But it was very interesting to me to see how different people would approach a German Shepherd whose ears are standing up. But I knew, that this dog could communicate through her eyes and was just so sweet and gentle. So I get that. It's amazing. But I also was fascinated with, some people would tell the child, don't pet the dog, and I'm like, well, it's very friendly, and I've also seen people say, oh, don't pet that stray cat. We were just in Maui, and my daughter and I and my husband and my son, we were all petting, there's a lot of cats there to keep away the mice. And they're feral. They've been neutered, spayed. And some man walked up and the daughter was coming to pet also. And don't pet a strange cat. And I was like thinking, good, okay, more for us to pet. But, what a shame. I see these animals in rescues and on the streets. And, I just feel like I don't know, sometimes I want to say human, but they're creatures that are so loving and gentle and kind. But I love the way you said it changes people. So what have you noticed when, I love that social lubricant, if you want to give a voice to that.
Well, one morning I was headed out to a dog park, and we all have various views about dog parks, whether or not they're safe. But it was 8:30 in the morning, and the group meeting started at 9, and I got there a little bit early to put up my sign and get everything ready. And there was a young woman sitting there whom I had never met, with her dog. And we immediately started talking, and she's now one of my very best friends. She was new in town. And I think it was truly fate that she had seen the online listing for the get together, and that she appeared early, and that I was early because I'm usually the last one running in saying, I'm here. But yeah, because we had this commonality of love of dogs, it immediately broke down the walls. But getting back to 2008 and Exquisitely Aligned, I think that I was lucky because it came to me at a time when I really needed to find something different to do and to a way to meet more people. And the country and business was kind of in crisis at that moment.
Right.
So that spurred me on a little bit more. But we all have things inside of ourselves that we'd like to pursue or explore or even share our knowledge. So the ability to be fluid and change and learn and share is something that I think we could all access more easily and benefit from it. So I love what you're talking about on Exquisitely Aligned.
And, that makes my heart beat faster. So yes, absolutely. I think sometimes, I've wondered why I've had people say, well, I can't do that. And I'm like, really? Is that true? Because I know this person likes to be truthful. Is that really true? Or what is holding you back? What is the story we say in our mind? Or that we've been told maybe as a child that we still believe and hang on to? For me, that's like extra weight. And I don't know, after COVID, I don't think I need any, or after my accident and 2 surgeries, I don't need any extra weight on me. But was there any part of you that ever thought, I can't do this? Because I don't know you that well to know if there was ever an inkling of doubt. There was? Okay, I'm shocked.
Every day I wake up and say, I can't do this. I mean, the world is changing so fast.
Yes.
Like technology, and there's a new way to do it. And my bank's changing. And, Amazon Web Services is creating this whole new thing. I got to change everything. I got to upgrade my website. WordPress just launched a new, update. So yeah, every day I wake up and say, can't do this. And then I think, I've been doing it. And I've gotten this far. Today isn't going to stop me. And that's all about frame of mind, right?
Yes.
How are you going to show up for the day? And I guess there's a little bit of fight in me that I'm not going to let the world take me down. That I will surpass this. I will hurdle this challenge.
Yeah.
But it's hard.
It is. I mean, I never thought about the technology part, but yeah, that does make me sometimes put up my hand and say, I quit. I'm done. I don't know how to fix this. My son always says, did you Google it first, Mom, before calling me? Which makes me laugh. Now I know to Google it, try different keywords, because clearly I'm not asking the right question, or using the right words. But yes, it's, definitely a mindset shift, and something that I love teaching and sharing, because I think when we start having, like you said, that fight, allow it to, burn a little brighter or energize us a little more, or be seen by others, maybe that, hey, I'm not going to go down. This is just one other thing I need to learn how to change. And I guess after we stop filming, I'll have to ask you what I need to change on my website too. No, but, there are times when we give into that negativeness. And I always think it's wonderful to have friends like you're talking about that can support you. And with people working at home now, like you were saying, the difference between working in an office in Manhattan, where Scout chewed a very expensive bunch of cables, versus, being in Sarasota new and working from home. And I think a lot of people have moved in the past. Well, statistics show a lot of people have moved after COVID, deciding, hey, I want to live where I'm happiest, not where, and especially now with the freedom of working from home and working flexible hours. But those friendships are so important. And I love the fact that you're saying that taking the dog out, we get to meet other like-minded, like-hearted, furry friend lovers. And it really makes conversations so much easier. But I know you're a connector, Mary Lou. And what other ways do you like to connect with people? For me, I like buying pieces that make people laugh or ask a question. I have a crossbody purse made out of soda pop tops. And so I get a lot of people. Is that what I think it is? Can I touch it? Can I touch it?
Sustainable.
Yes, exactly. And then the next question usually is, did you make it? And I'm like, oh gosh, no. Do you know how many bottle tops are on, pop tops are on here? But that was always one of my favorite ways to get people to react, I guess. What have you found works, or have you noticed either for yourself or others?
I think music is a great way to connect, and artwork. Photography is a great way. If you're out somewhere and you see a great picture, you can, without seeming creepy, if it's the right person near you, you can share the image, take a picture of their dog and ask them if they'd like a copy. And it just gets a conversation going. Antiquing is a great way to find flea marketing. I have a particular vendor here actually in Sarasota who travels between Connecticut and Florida. And he kind of knows what I like. And I know he's waiting for me with that item. And sometimes I'm interested and sometimes I'm not. He'll go down the wrong rabbit hole sometimes. But that's another way to find common ground.
Yeah, I love it. I asked someone recently to get outside of their house. One of my clients works a lot, and it's like, go for a walk, be outside in your front yard, anything, go buy a cup of coffee, even if you don't drink coffee, just to be sitting in that place, go to a park, go walk around a lake, whatever it is. Again, with a handbag made of soda pop tops. No, I'm teasing, but just
change up your
places. Get outside of the house, because I think so many work from home, and there's so much we can do because everything, as you mentioned earlier, is constantly changing, right? Technology is changing. So I could work easily 24 hours a day and still not be finished with the to-do list that's to my right arm. But
in your pajamas.
Yes, exactly. In my pajamas. Yes, correct. And with my food at my side, right? Breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the desk. But we really have to, I think nowadays, challenge ourselves if we are feeling lonely or even, I would say, disconnected or longing for, like you said, a really good friendship where you have, I want to say, each other's support, like, oh, Mary Lou, I found such and such, or I heard you are, I don't know, whatever. And then I can connect you with whatever that is. I have a girlfriend, she would always support me with magazine articles and, things on the web. And I know you like to teach this. So here, I found something that'll work for you. Oh, did you know this workshop's looking for speakers? Did you know? And I'm always like, oh my gosh, I feel like I need to write her a check,
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about meeting friends in different places, that they can support you. Like maybe one's a great cook and she sends recipes. Another one's a doctor. Another one knows a lot about whatever your particular hobby is, but it works together. They used to say you don't have to get everything from one person, your spouse, right?
Right.
So I believe strongly that your close network of friends all contributes on different levels, and sort of meeting them where they are, and stop expecting everybody to be on this level with this topic, but meet them where they are and enjoy what they have to offer and see how you can help them, in whatever way.
Yeah, that really makes relationships so much easier. And, you mentioned about not everything has to come from your spouse. I love that because it struck a chord. I was engaged many years ago before I met my husband, Mark. And I'll never forget when that engagement was called off because I asked him, how sure are you want to marry me? I had a gut feeling that he wasn't sure at all. And he said 80%. And I just, being a numbers woman as I am, that was not the number I was looking for. I was looking for more like 110, 120.
Yeah.
Especially we were young, very few bills, no sick parents, no sick children, no animals needing to be put to sleep. Life was easy. We each had a job. And so, at any rate, I met someone and she said to me, think about, because I was feeling sad, of course, heartbroken. And she said, think about the qualities he brought to the table and who, if he made you laugh, who makes you laugh out of your friends, like you're saying. So knowing where to look or where to enjoy those things. If you need somebody, like you said, a great recipe, I think of my girlfriend Cynthia because she's constantly cooking things that are delight my taste buds beyond what I was expecting. I mean, they're not only pretty what she serves, but tasty and healthy. So it checks off all three boxes. But that was such great advice that I received. I was 28 years old and I never thought about that. But the way you summed it up in that sentence, again, the power of your words, Mary Lou, always blows me away. And if we think about it, when you said that from an energy standpoint, if we did rely everything on our spouse, how exhausting would that be for them? They couldn't do what they want to do during a day, a week, a month, a year. And how devastating it also is if the relationship ends or they pass away or they're depleted like Mark was when he was ill. He couldn't give me those, make me smile and laugh anymore because he was barely, he was fighting for his life, I should say. So Definitely. I love that. That was a perfect way to say that. And I try to teach my daughter too, no one friend has to be all of those things to you either.
Impossible.
Yes, totally impossible. And I'm almost thinking the word like too much clinging, you're giving somebody too much responsibility that is not theirs to take on.
That's right.
And they could never meet your expectations, which is, So I love that statement.
Yeah. I try to think about my friends when I was like in junior high and how much fun we had. Everything was fun, right? We were done with school. Even if we just met on the corner of our block and sat by the streetlight and talked until it was time to go inside.
Yeah.
It was always so fun and so cool. And we were exploring the world together. So I try to bring some of that to all of my relationships, so that there's just a feeling of, what are we going to find today? Yeah. Is it going to be funny? Is it going to make us laugh? Or will it be tasty?
Or all of the above, and you go to sleep. You're so exhausted after that experience, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And of course, we always share ups and downs, but overall, the mood is festive and optimistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I wish I lived still on the East Coast, because I would hop in the car and come visit you. I believe that's such a very healthy and mindful and soulful way of waking up in the morning and approaching everything, not friendships, business, your marriage, or, if it's, maybe you're not married, but this person you have this love relationship with, committed to, if we can go along with that instead of what am I getting out of this today? Or, how are they going to make me happy today? that's such a never-ending, depressing, heavy way to appear. Where when you come in and go, what are we going to discover? Like a teenager, where life is easy, free. You have no, probably back then, no checking account. I know I had babysitting money in a drawer, things, or in my jewelry box, right? It was none of this. Like, what is, what do what do I have to change on the back end of my website? Which client do I owe a call to, or how am I following up with XYZ? But that carefree, I mean, we all have to pay our bills, right? But in the times that we're not at our desk paying a bill, why not live like that? So I love that image of being under the streetlight with just amazing friends, and exploring the world together, because that is just such a beautiful thing, because I've done it many times. Or I think of braiding each other's hair, that's when I had
with
hair
daisies. Not daisies, but those little clover flowers that were growing in the yards.
Yes. Yeah, those were the times. Yeah. So I love that. Mary Lou, I never asked you, how did you get into PR? What spurred you, and then moving into broadcasting? I mean, I love what you do for me. I love you allowing me to get the word out about something I'm so passionate about, something I feel called to. And I want to say, if you're listening in and you have a message to share, and multiple people have told you you should have a podcast or a television show, I'm going to tell you, you're here for a reason right now with Mary Lou and I, because this is the woman you want to connect with for that. She supports me in ways that are going to actually make me cry as I say it, beyond belief. To be able to continue and follow my dreams in a way that's bigger than I ever imagined. And, you do it so just, I don't know, it comes across as so effortlessly, but I know it's years of experience and just a big heart and brilliance and knowledge and yeah, years of experience. So no, I bow to you, Mary Lou, because I don't get to tell you that enough, especially here face to face. So if you're thinking about getting a message out, this is who you need to connect to. And always at the end, you'll know how to connect to her in the show notes. But how did you start in this journey?
So I was working at a PR service job in Chicago on Michigan Avenue, overlooking the park and the Art Institute and so on. And I got to know several people that were in pretty high level positions at like Kraft Foods and Xerox. And so I was helping them design their media packages. And it was kind of interesting to me because I started seeing press releases reprinted in whole in the newspaper. That was like, wow, who's really driving the sleigh here, right?
Right.
So, about that time, I was kind of recruited by a radio syndication firm down the street, no longer on Michigan Avenue, but close enough on the Gold Coast. So I started working for them and designing radio programs, and I was spending most of my days on the telephone with radio station managers trying to convince them to pick up our syndicated product. And that was a real eye-opener because I talked to people from tiny little towns in West Virginia to, an urban station in Chicago. And, quite a dichotomy, a diversity and level of interest in broadcasting. And so we had a studio in on site, 2 studios actually. And so often celebrities would make their way through. And so that's when we got into some of the bigger name products that we produce, like Animal Planet, HGTV, et cetera. But, this is sort of an evolution. And by 2007, 2008, right around that time, it was obvious that the radio climate landscape, if you will, was changing. And that's when we got into podcasting. Yeah. And nobody was really podcasting at that time. I didn't know what the word meant. So,
exactly. Pod what?
Right, what?
Right, exactly. Yeah. A pea pod? What are we talking about? Yeah.
What's iTunes?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't it funny? Like thinking back, it's like, wow, yeah, we didn't, it's so true. And, definitely I was asked multiple times or recommended by multiple people who didn't know each other, all while I was on the East Coast. Oh, you should have a podcast. And I was like, for what reason would I go down that path? I don't even listen to shows. Why would I go out and have a show? And, I like to say there are times in our lives that things are not, maybe someone's planting a seed, but it's not for you at that moment. At that moment, I was living in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was kind of tired of living there personally. I feel like it did its job. I was able to leave the horrible winters as I felt in New York. I mean, I love New York. I know you do too, but the winters were definitely not for me. I was able to meet my husband, marry him, have our son, adopt our daughter, but I felt like it was ending. For me, I was done. There was nothing fresh and new anymore. And I like change. I was the person who was constantly, this is the second color of this office, second or third, second, and I'm here almost 3 years, so I'm constantly changing the walls, the art, whatever. I like change, and it was time for me to get out of there. So when I came here to California and Carrie Ann suggested, I'm getting ready to do a podcast. I did all my artwork. I have my description, la, la, la. You should do a podcast. We can cheer each other on. That's when all of a sudden I had like this little inkling, like, you know what? This time the word podcast doesn't sound so repulsive. Yeah. It actually sounds as intriguing. Yes, I'm intimidated, but it's like equal. And I know through Connie Whitman, I got to meet you, Mary Lou, and the rest was history. And ironically, I have the podcast and Carrie Ann does not yet. So
didn't get started after all?
No, she did not. So isn't sometimes it's funny when you look back, because I was like, yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to go forward with this. Like, okay, I have to do artwork. She's like, yes, you need this, you need that. Okay, hold on. Let me see. And you know how many times I've asked you to change the artwork for me, because that's another thing. It's ever evolving. But I want to just say to, if today when I say to you, you should consider talking with Mary Lou and you are feeling intimidated, but there's a little piece of you thinking, I've been told this before and it kind of feels right hearing it from their voices, then you really need to I recommend, not me.
Everybody has a story.
Yes.
And it's just about framing it. It's just about framing it in the right way. People think, who would want to listen to me? Well, you might be surprised. Yeah.
And it's not that the people right there within your little village, your city, your little neighborhood, our neighborhood has 4,000 houses. So that's big, but it doesn't have to be that. You don't know who needs your message around the world. That's the beautiful thing about podcasting, right? While we're sleeping, somebody may be listening to an episode that was 2 seasons ago that just, lights them up from within and gives them that little, like you saying earlier about Oh, I wrote it down. The end of the leash is the end of the leash is like a social lubricant. I know you said it much nicer, but I jotted just the keywords. Maybe we inspired somebody to go rescue a dog today.
Oh, let's hope.
Or two. I like things in pairs. So, 8 little legs running through the house and maybe a kitten alongside, or I like to adopt the older cats and the older dogs because I always feel like they get missed. Plus, I avoid the chewing and the scratching. So that's the other, there's like a benefit, right? But, those stories, and I would like to say that, having Mary Lou on my side makes getting those stories out easier, faster, with grace and elegance. And that's the beauty of partnering with somebody who really gets it, who's passionate about it, and who has a huge heart and can connect you with the right words, with the right messages, with the right people, with the right audience. And so Mary Lou, again, I thank you for that. But I just, I don't want people to feel intimidated by sharing their story. I find sometimes people are vulnerable. What do you think about that? They're afraid to be vulnerable. That's what I wanted to say.
I think that's true. And I think that, when you started your podcast, you were probably a little more than the ex-fiance, but you were already at 85%, let's say, right? So you just needed a lift.
Yeah,
remember when we were talking about titles back and forth, you already had all of the content sort of summarized and ordered. It was just a little tweak to sort of frame it. And that, I think, helps you when you're actually doing the podcast. If you've gotten a little bit of a description done first, then you know what your goal is. I always say to have an outline, for 6 or 8 episodes. And it's just like anything else. It's always hard until it's not. And after all this, however many years, 20 something years, 30 in broadcast, I know the steps that you need to take to make it easy. And by working with someone like me, and I don't want this to sound like a pitch or anything, because there are other people out there in the world that do what I do. But by working with a professional, it's just going to make your life so much easier instead of sounding like you're in the basement, shuffling papers around. And what are you going to say next? So I encourage everybody to use a podcast coach or a podcast service that is a little more hands-on than just, syndication.
Mm-hmm. And it really takes, for those of us who do, you feel like you have a platform to stand upon. And so 2 things from what you just said. You had mentioned 6 to 8 episodes, right? And that can sound intimidating, like 6 to 8. But what I found was the minute you start 1, you're like, oh my gosh, this is really too long. It needs to be 3, and then you're like, okay, hold on. That's making me think about this and that. And so it really just sparks very quickly, getting down the 1 really is usually more than 1. What I've found, it's you think it's going to take so much time to get that out. And I'm sorry, I said that backwards. You think you have something short, compact, but then when you really dive into it, you find out this outline is 10 pages long and you're like, oh my gosh, I think I have 10 episodes, I could totally dive deeper into this with Mary Lou and invite so-and-so. And the thing about, go ahead.
Yeah, it's like going to the grocery store for milk and walking out having spent $100, and it's a lot more than milk in the car.
Well, what I've learned is definitely do not go to the grocery store hungry, because I've come out with items that I used to eat, like cookies that I don't usually buy. I'm like, oh my God, yeah, okay. And I'll try this food and I'll try,
That looks good.
exactly. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, you have to go on an empty stomach where you're like, oh God, the thought of eating something else, so that you just get the milk and you're out of there. The thing about the titles, so that's a great, great, great example. For me, having you polish up and really refine, like kind of like a diamond. I love sparkly things, but a title or just whatever I had at the time, I think it was mostly titles that I was like, oh my God, I don't even know what to call this. Really, those words, that tweaking gave me, like, all of a sudden I could stand taller. It was like, oh yeah, this is so on brand. This is so exactly. So it was more than just a title for me. It really, having somebody on your team that sees you, hears you, wants to give you or allow you to be bigger with the microphone, whether it's a podcast, YouTube, and Experts and Authors TV. I like everything, right? Bring it on, Mary Lou.
Yeah.
Really allows you, even if you're a solopreneur or somebody who's just interested in starting a conversation and giving others hope, giving others insight, an easier way of doing things, or exciting somebody. What are the other words? Because I know there's so much more that one message, one episode, even if it's 10 minutes, can spark so many
That's
things.
right. Yeah. And I think there are really two kinds of podcasters. There's the expert, you're an expert, and then there's an explorer.
Yeah.
And I'm an explorer. And I have a show called The Rover Reporter. And so I work with experts to help demystify things about dogs, pets, health, and psychology of humans and how they interact with canines. So you don't have to be a doctor or a lawyer or a clinical social worker or a financial advisor to have a podcast. You can be somebody who's interested in a topic and wants to dig in and have access to those people who are in the know, and sort of bring them down to layman's terms, questions that normal people off the street have always wanted to know.
Yeah.
And that can be very compelling and exciting and listenable.
Yes.
So, you're also an explorer.
Yeah. I love that, Mary Lou, because I never thought about the different types of podcasting because, kind of new to it still, but so true. And one of the wonderful women you introduced me to in this past week said exactly that. She wanted to learn more, and then she dove in with a podcast, and what she learned, she said, was invaluable. And the access she gained, like you were saying, to experts, also invaluable. And I know for her listeners as well, the same. So that's a great way of explaining it. I love the fact that everybody has a story to tell. And I really want to support people that it's okay to be vulnerable and share your story, because you'll find when you do that, there's freedom in it, but also you give the permission to others to do the same. You make them more comfortable. You allow them to see that it's safe, and what I think is so phenomenal, being 54 years young, is that my kids get to see this. They listen to podcasts. When I grew up, we had very few, right? You could turn on the radio. You could record from the radio right onto a cassette tape and a Walkman. I think it was called a Sony Walkman. Mine was yellow. I don't know. Maybe they were all yellow. I don't remember. But, nowadays we have access to hear things around the world in different languages or even in our native language, and find people and connect with people, like you were saying, with the dogs and 5,000 members,
I think the yellow Walkman was waterproof.
Oh, waterproof, I guess, because
You had the
me, I like to be at the beach.
premium version.
I had to, because, my goal was always to be at the beach in the sand, covered in salt, come out with my tan skin and a white haze of sea salt. That was, that was always my goal. And that's why I'm here in California, and hopefully I can remain close to the ocean forever. But, yeah, I think you're right. It was probably, that's why I bought it. So yeah, there's so many ways of getting the word out now.
How many episodes have you done now, Gina?
That's a great question, because I was asking myself the other night. I think that I am almost finished with season 4.
Okay. And
so
there are
probably late 40s, 50s, early 50s, I think I'm in.
Okay. And so does one particular episode stand out to you, besides this one, of course, as remarkable?
Oh, God. You know what? I had so many different, like Carrie Ann, who I was telling you about, who inspired me to have the show. We had a very interesting conversation where she was saying her dad, when she was young, always told her, Carrie Ann, get your head out of the clouds. And I thought, that's why I like you. Like I didn't know that about her, that's what her dad would say. And that led to a very interesting conversation about how beautiful it is when our head is in the clouds, kind of like you, alluding to that, junior high time of being under the street lamp, just exploring through others' eyes and conversation with friends till it was time to get back into bed and, back to reality. But another one was, I'm blanking on her name, but she was reaching under. She loves Thanksgiving. It's her favorite holiday. She was working crazy hours, couldn't wait to celebrate Thanksgiving with her whole family. And she went to go under the bed, lifting up the cover to grab out some of the stuff she stores under the bed for Thanksgiving, and fell asleep. That's how exhausted her body was. Like, it got horizontal and it stayed. Wow. And so we had a lot of laughs. Sam was laughing as he was listening to edit. And,
sure.
So there have been so many times where it's like, yeah, your body really will say, I'm done, lights out. Luckily she was, in the horizontal position and not standing somewhere on the train, in Manhattan. So, there've been so many, those, and then you brought up music, right? I said, how else do you like to connect? Music, art, photography. Love that. I think it was 2 weeks ago, I had Deborah Wondercheck on, and she shared how at 10 years old, she had her suitcase in her hand and her cello on her back, with her mother, who had almost like an Underground Railroad situation, was escaping a volatile, very uncomfortable marriage. And the 3 oldest out of 7 children were in college, and she only had 4 to get out of this house. And so Deborah being the youngest of the 7, and she managed to leave Chicago, through 3 different, 2 women's shelters, 1 Salvation Army, and came to Oceanside, California, not far from where I am. And across the street from the shelter was a school that focused on the arts. And awesome. So she found harmony again, because her mom taught them instruments from a young age. And even though money was tight, her mother got them each, I think, 5 out of 7 had full paid scholarships for music. All of these 7 kids are thriving. She does the arts and science oh gosh, now I'm forgetting the name, Arts Conservatory here in Orange County. So I've met so many fascinating people. Oh, here's one more quick one, Mary Lou. I was able to connect Hina in India, also a podcaster, with Arnie in Bangkok as she went to get her visa to come here to America. I said, hold on, I know somebody in Bangkok. You need to meet him. He's a podcaster. And they sent pictures of them eating dessert together. And we're getting ready to do a show, all three of us. So it opens these amazing, you asked me if one stuck out, like so many, and just here learning more about you on a personal level, a professional level, and being able to say thank you to you in person.
Both Sam and I enjoy working with you so much, Gina. So we know we're always getting a quality show when you submit. So that makes our lives easier.
Thank you. I greatly, coming from you and Sam, that means the world. But yeah, podcasting just opens up so many, I don't know, for me, it makes my life more exciting, more thrilling. Being with you today, I'm going to be happy the rest of the day. Tomorrow I'm with somebody from Spain, and that makes me excited because I feel like I've been to Spain, even though I'm sitting here in Orange County, and
it's definitely a credential to use. Yeah. And I think on my first or second show, I interviewed a New York Times bestselling author. I couldn't believe she said yes, but and she's a world-renowned scientist. But I was there and I was curious and she was willing. And so that sounds kind of racy, but
that could be another episode.
Yeah, exactly. But she was willing and it turned out to be a great episode. The other thing I think about hosting a podcast is you have to be willing to put yourself out there and be corrected. I made a lot of assumptions in that episode. And she called me out on them. And I was I a little embarrassed? Yeah, of course. But I don't care because the truth, the truth bore out in that episode. And I didn't want to be perpetuating any myths. And she delivered hardcore information, real information. So you got to be willing to roll with the punches.
Yeah. And there's times where you might be caught off guard. There's times where you might get a tickle in your throat. I've had that, as you know, I have my hot tea, my water. I try to be prepared. I always try to make sure I don't knock it over and spill it all over my notes that I'm taking as we speak.
Right.
Sometimes I realize, I grew up in an Italian-German family with a mother whose arms are always flying around like mine. I grew up interrupting people like, hold on, wait, and I realized very quickly, okay, you gotta remember you're not in your, 5-year-old body in your home interrupting people. But I try to tell people, listen, I just get so excited. There are times I may like, hold on, wait, that's a great thought. Let's stick.
Yes.
But, it's true. And I think deep down, I believe the majority, probably 80% of people want to, I don't want to say grow because sometimes we grow this way and it doesn't feel good. And I think we're already grown, but to expand the way we express ourselves. And I think, yes, there's fear because some people judge us. We're not going to make everybody happy. Listen, I have a New York accent. It's hard to get rid of, it's part of who I am. Got teased for it in college, even though I went to school in New York City. I got teased for that Long Island accent. But, when you want to expand your horizons and be the best version of yourself, your finest self, those things will happen and they help us, right? So when you were saying you didn't want to, give me a minute to think how you said it, like perpetuate myths, you may have said it better, but hey, look at what the clarity you received, right? And be able to share truth in a bigger, more profound way because you heard it from, I don't know, how would you say
Source.
it? The authority, yeah, the source, the authority was the word that was coming to my mind. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that, go
How
ahead.
lucky are we that we have all these opportunities for online learning that are free? It used to be if you wanted to research something, you'd have to go pull your Encyclopedia Britannica or go to the library. And I'm not talking just about Googling. I'm talking about
Right,
being able to listen to someone who is extremely well versed in a particular topic and
exactly.
glean their emotion and facts all at
Hmm.
once. It's
Yeah.
just phenomenal.
Well, I always feel like it's like they're in your home, right? Last night, Sonia was washing the dishes for us because that's one of her things we ask her to do in exchange for the money we pay for all of her lovely dancing, things like that. But she was listening to not really what I wanted her to listen to, which is a murder podcast, a murder, I don't even know what you call it, but like
True
crime
crime.
scene. Yeah, one of those. And as she was washing the dishes, so it's like having somebody in your house as a guest over a cup of coffee or tea.
Yes.
That's how, for me, you were saying Encyclopedia Britannica, which I remember needing to ask for a ride to get to that encyclopedia because
Yeah.
they didn't live in my home. That's how old I am, but or how fine I am. But nowadays it's like having a brilliant, well versed somebody from the PR and broadcasting uh, industry with I don't want to make you sound old, but with years, with decades worth of knowledge, just at my fingertips right now,
Yeah.
and sharing that brilliance of yours with others in a bigger, more impactful way. And I think of the Jetsons because I grew up watching them. It's like all of a sudden we're living in the Jetsons, with the watch that you can see people, look
Right.
at the camera and I can see your beautiful smile. So, yeah, it's incredible. And if we can step into that little bit of feeling intimidated and intrigued, we really have the world at our fingertips. And I love the fact that you brought up expert and explorer because really you don't have to know everything. I certainly don't. I like the fact that you said, oh, here I'll give you this title, but it's being able to sit across from someone like yourself on a weekly basis that helps me continue my growth in knowledge and experience and being led down a different path that brings me enlightenment and totally definitely joy. So for that, Mary Lou, I am very, very grateful. I would like to pull a card, if it's okay with you, from the Opening to Possibilities deck, which I think you're familiar
Please.
with. So I'm going to shuffle them through. They've been shuffled once before, but I'll shuffle them through very quickly. And I tell everybody I'm not going to get a job in Vegas, but luckily in Vegas now, right? They have a machine. They have a machine to do this, so maybe I need one of those. So as I thumb through, if you could just say stop, and then I'll pick the card and I'll be able to read it to you. So I'll start now.
Stop.
Okay. Kindness. That's great. So kindness. In kindness, all is possible. And I think we've been talking about that today, all the possibilities. So there's 3 questions. You can choose 1, 2, or 3. What acts of kindness have you experienced? How did it melt your heart? What random acts of kindness have you initiated? Which I know you've done a bunch, but in kindness, all things are possible.
Am I supposed to answer that?
Yes. Which one? Sorry. You can answer 1, 2, or 3. What acts of kindness have you experienced? How did it melt your heart? If you want to do that one. What random acts of kindness have you initiated?
Yesterday, this is number 1. I was leaving the doctor's office, and you know that feeling when you just want to get out of that clinical environment?
Yes. The smell. Yes.
Well, I walked into this lobby, and this particular doctor's kind of homespun. He's not part of a big practice or anything. He's got like real overstuffed furniture and pictures of his kids and his kids' artwork on the wall. So when I walked out, his receptionist was actually in the reception area talking to two other patients that were waiting to see him. And they were laughing. And when I walked out, they looked at me like, oh, here's another one of us. Here's a friend,
Right.
you know, and one of them held the door for me. And we exchanged information. Like somebody said they liked my earrings or something like that. And it was just a lift instead of that cold, impersonal, you know, like bolting to the car because you can't stand it. And I think that's why I see that primary care guy is because it's so real. And real people work there, not behind the glass. I mean, she does have that, but she's often not out behind the glass. Am I saying that right? She's often interacting with the patients. So they didn't ignore me. They embraced me. And what was it? 30 seconds. But when I got to the car, I just felt like,
especially when you leave the doctor's office, you want to leave with a smile, right? And like a warm, fuzzy feeling. I love that. It's amazing how many times people pass each other and don't even acknowledge that there's another human being, you know, like it just amazes me. I'm always smiling. Hi, how are you? Mark's like, do you know them? No, but now I do, right? You know, like he's like, you just want to know everybody. Yeah, kind of. I just want to.
Yeah, I noticed that when I'm in the grocery store, women who kind of look like me acknowledge me more easily than somebody who's 20 or somebody who's 80.
Yeah. It's like, I see you, Mary Lou.
Yeah, I see what you're doing. I see what you're getting. I see that your husband's taking too long to choose a soda water or whatever it is because he has to read every ingredient, right?
Yes, that would be, or my husband would be Googling the reviews. Hold on. Let's see. You know, like,
right with you.
The goal here is we're getting in and out. I don't want to spend the afternoon at the grocery store. Yeah, I try to leave him at home. Or sometimes he'll offer, would you like me to do, I know you're busy and you'd like to, I'll do that for you. I was like, the problem with that is when you go for like milk, it takes you 3 hours. I don't know what you're doing in there, you know?
Yeah.
But those being able to be seen, see others, smile. I mean, just eye contact with a little lift of the outer edges of the muscles on the lips. I mean, everyone wants to exercise, right? Burn calories. How much, you know, have I burned on my, whatever they're tracking it on?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why not lift those outer edges of the lips and give somebody just a smile, even if you don't want to show your teeth, just that little lift. Really, I always say you never know where somebody's day is.
That's right.
Especially right in the doctor's office. Sometimes we're not receiving the happiest of news. Mm-hmm. Or there's how would you say, like you're leaving knowing you have to get blood work done or go get a test or, you know, so like now you have this extra step that's not comfortable. So I love that. And having kids' drawings in a doctor's office, your own kids' drawings, that's because for me, that's not where I feel comfortable in a doctor's office. The smell, the light, the fluorescent lights, like you're talking about, the glass, the masks, all of those things make me.
The vinyl chairs.
Yeah, the vinyl chairs are the best. Yes. They're the best because you're thinking, okay, how much chemicals am I sitting on because they could spray it on the vinyl chair? That's what I think about. Besides the fact peeling my my arms off. Yeah, it's so fascinating. So, Mary Lou, do you have any other final words or things? I mean, I'd like to ask people to, if you don't mind, share your website and definitely television, and then all your whatever else you'd like to share.
So you can find our podcasts at webtalkradio.com. You can find our video podcasts on Roku and Amazon Fire devices. Just go to the App Store and search expertsandauthors.tv and download the app, and you'll find Gina's show there. If you're a dog lover, you can check out sarasotadog.com. And I guess my parting words of wisdom are just trust yourself to move forward and find whatever it is that you enjoy doing, and that might be doing a podcast.
Yes, absolutely. Wink, wink. That's my hope. Because getting the messages, the stories out is it, and who you get to meet and all the joy you get to bring inside is just amazing. So, Mary Lou, it's been so fun sharing this time with you. And I thank you is really not even enough for me to tell you just how much and how grateful I am to have you in my life, in my world, behind my show and out in front, teaching me and sharing your brilliance is incredible.
And just it's totally mutual.
Thank you.
So,
thank you.
Thank you.
And just, I bow to you and Sam, the whole team. And just want to say I invite you to Purpose Possibilities and Prosecco, a 2-hour private transformation like no other. Till next time, be exquisite.